Welcome back to One Winning Pod, where we're here to discuss what some are calling the Super Bowl preview. We have the San Francisco 49ers at San Francisco on Christmas Day. Will it be a jolly day for the Ravens? Unclear, but we are here to discuss it with Aaron, who, if you're a longtime listener of the show, back in the Ravens recap days we had on in 2019 to discuss, this team.
What ended up being a very wet game that the 49ers lost. But we went to the Super Bowl that year, so it was all right. Thanks for having me back.
Welcome back.
Indeed, you guys did. We thought back then that game was going to be a Super Bowl preview for 2019, and, San Francisco obviously kept up their end of the bargain there. But, we'll see for this year. It's going to be, what a matchup that the NFL, had here for Christmas night. Both number one seeds, both two teams. I mean, gosh, these defenses are playing excellent. And you have two of the most exciting offensive players in the game right now, Lamar Jackson and Christian McCaffrey, squaring off in this game. What more could you ask for?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Brock Purdy when you said two of the most.
I almost did. I was close.
Is that a slight?
Oh man.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a great game. I'm really, really excited. It's kind of the best Christmas present. I'll get to watch some kids open some presents, and then at 6:15 my time, I get to watch the 49ers take on who I think is probably the best overall team in the NFL, and hopefully lay the smackdown, take the crown.
Hey man, I too am just thrilled. It is the game that every Ravens fan is basically saying, not only are they excited to see, but we also know we can lose this one. We really just need to beat Miami. That's the number one concern. But obviously, we're greedy and we want to win everything. But I think it's a hugely important game for both parties because I think, I'm not sure. Did you guys clinch? I think you guys clinched making playoffs.
So we clinched the division. So we're guaranteed a home playoff game. It's a little bit tougher for us. We'll see what happens with the Eagles tonight, but the Eagles have a pretty cake schedule the rest of the way through, and 49ers have to get past the Ravens and the Rams in Week 18 to try and get the number one seed. So it's a pretty important game for us.
Right. Though the Niners do have the head-to-head over Dallas and the Eagles, right?
They do currently, yeah. But if they lose one and the Eagles win out, then it's done.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's tough. Yeah. Wow. You really want that Browns game back, I bet, or some of your other really disappointing losses.
Well, so it was 3 straight before the bye, right? 3 straight losses, I think.
Yeah, they lost to Minnesota. They lost to Cleveland, then Minnesota, and then Cincinnati.
Yeah. We know how that feels all too well with losing to the Colts and then the Browns game. And did you see the statistic during the game? We've been up the last 2 minutes of every game this year. How do we have 3 losses? That's them Ravens.
Yeah, it's wild. I guess going into that too, the Niners and the Ravens definitely do have a similar type of just construction of the team they want to build. So I think you're looking at the Niners schedule, you have a lot of heavy leads from the Niners. Even going back to earlier in the season, they were putting up a lot of points, and their defense was holding the opposing offenses to not so many points. So they have a couple blowouts here, even against really good teams. Niners Cowboys 42-10. You got another one. You've got Niners Jags 34-3. Even the game against the Eagles 42-19. So like the Ravens, I think the 49ers can, they've got the offense to put up a ton of points. They've got the defense to hold those opposing offenses, and honestly, I think it's going to be one of those, rock and a hard place situations, I think, going into this game of both these teams have proven they can compete with the best of them, and now pit them against each other. What kind of game are you going to end up with? It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm really it's interesting to think about the 49ers coming out of the last 18 months or so. Thinking about Trey Lance taking over the reins of a team from Jimmy Garoppolo, getting hurt within 2 days, just kind of the world shifting, right? Like follow that up with the Jimmy injury, and now we've got I guess the odds-on favorite for MVP, but somebody that nobody thought was going to be there, taking on the mantle of kind of maybe the next generational 49ers quarterback. The addition of McCaffrey, right? For a good extension, but as far as the cost goes, I mean, it's an incredible value it seems that they got him for, and yeah, I mean the fortunes have really turned over the last year and a half. So.
Yeah, it's really such an interesting story. I mean, one of the most interesting from the quarterback position, maybe since Tom Brady. I mean, I guess Tony Romo came out of nowhere as well, but he didn't do it right out of the gate, which is what Purdy has done since he's gone in there. I guess we got to ask you about Purdy because it's the big question that seems to be dominating the headlines right now with him being in the MVP consideration. From your perspective as a Niners fan, game manager or franchise quarterback, or too early to tell?
Can't you be both? I mean,
absolutely. I mean, it's however you want to answer it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really love the debate, and I follow a lot of beat writers, and obviously I follow a lot of folks that have pretty strong takes on football, and so my timeline on Twitter or whatever blows up about this stuff all the time. But listen, I think that it's without a doubt the case that he has incredible weapons around him, that he's got a fantastic offensive coach, right? Like Shanahan is one of the best. I mean, Shanahan made Matt Ryan an MVP. No offense to Matt Ryan, but a little bit of offense to Matt Ryan. And
I mean, Matt Ryan's he's no Joe Flacco, right?
Absolutely.
Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco is elite.
Joe Flacco still playing, by the way.
Right.
Still winning football games.
Right. It says something if the New York Jets won't even give you a call to have you come in for a tryout midseason, right? But no, but I mean, I think for Purdy, like, listen, let's kind of put it in context. He has an EPA per play of like 0.37, which is about 75% more efficient than the next, which is Josh Allen at 0.21. Right. And yeah, so that's partially scheme. I get it. But it doesn't happen if the quarterback doesn't execute. Right. And that's all that he's done. He's got, I think, a touchdown. And this is speaking to the efficiency. He's got a touchdown percentage of 7.6. Right. So 7.6 of his passes go for touchdowns. That's an insanely efficient and likely long-term unsustainable stat. But during the 5 regular season games that he started last year, he was at a 7.6% touchdown rate as well, right? Like, I think the guy can play. I think, and we see it, and like he's near the top of every single metric across the board. Do I think he's the MVP? I mean, I think he's the MVP because we view MVPs as quarterbacks, and he's putting up the counting stats, right? And so I think that matters when it comes to how people choose at the end of the year. But really what I think is, we're talking about the Super Bowl. I think that if Lamar comes out and smacks the Niners and Purdy has a rougher game against, the number 1 or number 2 defense in the league, depending on different metrics that you might have in the Ravens, maybe Lamar is the odds-on favorite and Purdy falls back. But if Purdy puts up a performance like he's put up over the last few weeks, I mean, he's basically just solidified the MVP award, I think.
Yeah. I think for me, like my only question is, like, if you inserted a different quarterback, you inserted Joe Flacco on both teams, going back to Joe, right? Like current Joe Flacco on both teams, what would be the bigger delta? And that's where I think the Ravens would be sunk without Lamar. Whereas like you guys have all those skill weapons. I'm like, Joe throws a pretty good ball, like it might be okay.
Totally. Yeah. And I think you're right. Like, just in like the broader sense of it, right? Like I think that, and that's the schematic advantage that he has. But I do take a look at what he has done, and you look at it historically, and like these numbers are just insane, right? Like his average net yards per attempt is now second to only, I believe, like peak Peyton Manning over the course of a season, right? Like, I mean, he's just behind Kurt Warner in some of the counting stats from The Greatest Show on Turf, right? Like, and so it's tough. You're right, like to say that other quarterbacks can go in. I mean, Nick Mullins for a period had some good numbers with the 49ers. Shout out to Minnesota great Nick Mullins. But we take a look at it overall, he just continues to win. And so the question is it him? Or is it CMC? Or is it a combination of both? And I don't know if you guys saw it, but they started talking kind of back to each other like the Spider-Man meme of "You're the MVP, no, you're the MVP," and that's kind of been the talking point coming out of Bay Area media over the last couple of days. Is they're both pointing to the other one and saying that's who the real MVP is, right?
Yeah, that's crazy. It's a crazy thought experiment to look at what, where San Francisco would be right now. Had you guys not drafted Purdy, had the Christian McCaffrey trade not been made. Because, I mean, you look at, what happened with Trey Lance there, and, Elijah Mitchell was a surprise his rookie year, but, while he has talent, couldn't stay healthy. And with all due respect to him, he's not Christian McCaffrey, right? I mean, there's only one Christian McCaffrey in the league right now. I mean, maybe Jahmyr Gibbs gets there, but as a dual threat, I mean, Christian McCaffrey is just on another level. If I recall correctly, and maybe I'm misquoting you, but I think you had some skepticism about the trade when that was originally made. That's maybe San Francisco didn't need to give that up for the offense. Now that McCaffrey's been there for a while, what's your take on that? Is he really? Do you think San Francisco would be right here with what they already had, or is he really catapulting them to this, number one seed?
I was wrong. I'd like to go on the record here in front of the world and say that I was wrong. I mean, I'm kind of team running backs don't matter when it comes from a value perspective, looking for replacement level running backs where you can find them and having the offensive line do the work. Christian McCaffrey has done exactly what the 49ers thought that they were going to get from him, and maybe a little bit more. I mean, what I think that I didn't think of as much as I should have is just the versatility that he provides, and that's kind of the Shanahan scheme piece too, right? Is that whether you have Deebo Samuel, whether you have Kittle, you have Juszczyk, you've got CMC, they can line up all over the place. It allows them to basically run the same play multiple times, but with different pieces and different alignments. It creates something that is very, very hard for other teams to defend. And I mean, that's why I think there is actually, if it wasn't a quarterback award, an argument that somebody like CMC could be the MVP, right? I mean, he's got 1,800 scrimmage yards already, right? He's got almost 1,300 rushing yards, and I think he's nearly 300 yards above the second closest person, which is Raheem Mostert. He's got 20 passing and receiving 21 passing, receiving, and rushing touchdowns this year, right? So yeah, I
more than many teams.
Yeah,
like literally like 5 teams.
Like more than my son's favorite team. For some reason, my 6-year-old is a fan of the Jets, and he wishes that he had McCaffrey on the team. Yeah, absolutely, poor child. He likes the color green. So
does he not realize the Eagles are green as well, but also good?
Yeah, but he wants to continue to live in my household, and so
okay. Ooh. Yeah. I see.
AFC
conference. Absolutely. So yeah, no, I think he's pretty incredible, and I mean that's not news to anybody, but that's why he's the other case for the MVP, right? I think that there are 4 people that are legit MVP candidates, and only 2 of them are probably going to get votes, which, like at the end of it, unless Dak bounces back, I think it's going to be Lamar and Purdy. But otherwise, I think it's Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey.
Mhm.
Yeah, crazy. We're gonna be talking about them over the next 2 weeks. But yeah, going to McCaffrey, I think he to me, I think is definitely the X factor for this game. Thinking about the Ravens, I think they've struggled a little bit the last couple of weeks defending the run, and certainly McCaffrey. I mean, he's just got like an unreal level of explosion and versatility that you can bring him in, and I think I think he's going to be a force definitely in the passing game too. Our passing defense, I think, is more of a strength for this team. But I do think, sometimes the Ravens have a tendency to, play back a little bit further, kind of cover the weapons on the back end. And when you've got a guy like McCaffrey, it makes me a little bit worried with some of our linebackers matching up against him, and just, maybe thinking he's going to be out in the flat, then all of a sudden he's running a wheel route. We've seen a few of those given up already this season. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I think, I think this is going to be one of the toughest matchups for the Ravens this year. I think the closest game in comparison might be the Rams, just because McVay also from the Shanahan tree. And, we saw how that was. Like, the Rams put up a ton of offense. And honestly, the Ravens, I think, were kind of lucky to outlast them on a special teams touchdown. So, in overtime. So, yeah, it'll be crazy. For me, I'm definitely kind of expecting this to be more of a shootout level, and hopefully we get the best of both these candidates.
Talking about this offensive scheme, I think the thing that they try to do is really exploit your middle linebackers, kind of like what you were saying, Chris, and that's where a lot of NFL teams are not built. Now, the Ravens have really good inside linebackers, but I don't know if they're good enough. Like, that is my question as well. When you have a guy like Christian McCaffrey, and you also just have, Kittle and Ayuk and Debo all just like running around, all out there. I mean, that's a lot of really difficult people to cover. And I'm wondering, we're going to have to see Roquan and PQ have incredible games, I think, in order to contain this offense. And I think it's super exciting just from like a football fan perspective. I think so many people are going to enjoy watching this game because you really do have the most modern offense and defense going against each other. I mean, if you look at the VOA rankings, San Francisco is number 1, Baltimore is number 2, and it's like not even close. So San Francisco is really far ahead, and then Baltimore's pretty far ahead of everyone else. And there's like a cluster of 3 more teams, and yeah, but the offensive DVOA is just like out of control for San Francisco, number 1, and the Ravens are number 4. And then for our defenses, it's 2 versus 4. So it's just like really great on both sides of the ball, and just like I said, like the way that they try to the way that San Francisco is going to try to attack on offense is exactly what the Ravens are trying to be good at. But one question I also have too is like also talking about that middle of the defense. Is Kyle Hamilton going to be able to play the Joker role, or is he going to be delegated to safety because of Marcus Williams' injury? I think that's going to be a huge X factor, because if he's able to come down and cover Kittle or be in the flats, I think that will be huge, or be on Christian McCaffrey, etc. But if he's like kind of stuck, quote unquote, playing safety, I don't know if it's going to be as good. I think, in fact, if I were the Ravens and we don't have him, I would play Stevens in safety. I would play Darby as the other corner, and I'd have Hamilton in the slot. I think Hamilton has to be in the slot for this game.
Yeah, I mean, the Marcus Williams injury is really frustrating for this matchup for all the reasons that you said. What Hamilton will be able to do with him there, that's going to be something that's going to be tough. And I know you just talked about Kittle, you talked about McCaffrey, and a little bit about Debo. But I mean, a guy that you could shut all those guys down hypothetically, and yet we still got out here Brandon Ayuk, who's having an incredible season for you guys, Aaron. And his quote unquote sophomore slump just feels very far away at this point. Already over 1,000 yards receiving for this year. I didn't realize his yards per catch was so high. 18.5 is a career high if that ended right there by a lot. What's unlocked Ayuk to this level this year?
So, I mean, I think that you started to see it a bit last year as well, towards the end of the season. I think that what you get is somebody who is very, very comfortable kind of operating in that center of the field that ends up being, again, 15, 16, 17, 18 yards down the field in that kind of intermediate area that the 49ers historically have been able to attack so very well. I think that, the weapons that they have, and again, I think like part of this is scheme, also does this, right? One of the things that the 49ers have been very, very good at is uh, creating routes that the levels pull safeties down, which open up for Ayuk in that kind of intermediate part of the field. And then, I mean, coming out of college, he was a fantastic player, right? Like I think this was him. I think that this was him even in his rookie year. We saw when Debo was out that, and sorry, I just got a cat coming across, but when Debo was out in his rookie year, Ayuk was 1,000-yard receiver, right? Yeah, he didn't quite have that in year two, and in year three started to develop. But I think overall it is a matter of general talent. But I think that those kind of gaudy stats where he's already sitting, and I think he's just under 1,100 yards, and that 18.7 average yards per attempt or per catch comes to us schematically more than anything else. I mean, like just overall though, like all of them are right. There might be 3,000-yard receivers.
Yeah.
I mean, well, two plus a tight end, but right, like
Insane.
and that like they're all very good, and we all know that they're very good. But I mean, that doesn't come without the schematic advantages I think that Shanahan gives.
Yeah. I guess before we shift over to talking about the Niners defense, I don't think that San Francisco would be able to support everything they're doing with the skill position guys we just started, talking about, if not for their offensive line. Obviously, I think it's a unit that, unless you're a fan of the team, you don't really know them terribly well for a variety of reasons. But, anytime I've watched a Niners game this year, they've seemed to me like a very strong unit all around the board. Purdy's had some incredible pockets to work with. Some of the holes McCaffrey gets are just insane. When you look at their offensive line, I mean, what do you think are their strengths, and is there somewhere that the Ravens might have some success attacking there?
Yeah, so I mean, the offensive line success starts with left tackle. It always starts with left tackle, and when you have an all-world left tackle in Trent Williams, then you got a good start. And as far as run blocking goes, they are and have been a very, very successful team. Depending on some of the metrics that you look at, like PFF, I think grades them bottom third in the league in terms of pass blocking, which is a bit surprising. And where you find that is on the right side. McKivitz, folks like that are the ones that are going to be more likely to let down in the face of, say, probably the best pressure team in the league in the Ravens. I'd say the other part of the puzzle is, at least for the 49ers trying to beat you folks, is relying on Kittle as a blocker in this game. He's obviously always been a fantastic blocker. And when he isn't blocking, he releases and creates a lot of plays with yards after the catch. But I was looking up a stat the other day, and unless it changed yesterday, he hasn't had a blown block all year round or all year long,
Wow.
which is just incredible, right? And so I think like that's how the 49ers are going to have to attack. But if the Ravens are going to want to counter, they're going to have to come onto the right side of the line. So I'd expect that the 49ers are probably going to try and bolster that side using tight ends for extra blockers, maybe using Juszczyk as an extra blocker when needed.
Yeah, it's good insight. I'm a little concerned about the Ravens pass rush this game. It's been a little quiet lately. It seems like people are focusing more on Clowney, and obviously Madubuike is having a career year, and he's been successful and hoping to continue the streak of his half sacks per game. But I just don't know how we're going to get pressure, particularly like you said with the all-world left tackle and the other pieces on the offensive line. So I think it's a huge battle, and that's another part that gets underappreciated, right? Is how important that offensive line is to keeping the clocks running on that offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the one thing when I was talking about their pass blocking grade. Purdy's been pressured on about 39% of his snaps, or like on dropbacks, I should say, not on snaps, but on dropbacks, which is, it shows that you can get past and create some problems for him. And so, if and your defensive line is fantastic, right? Or your defensive line is fantastic. So if your offensive line's fine, but
We'll get to them.
if you folks can kind of force a few times where Purdy has to create out of structure, I think that you have an opportunity to create turnovers, and you've been pretty good at creating turnovers this year so far as well. So,
yeah, I think that's definitely a matchup we're looking at. I agree with Alec. I mean, gosh, how can I not? Seems to be the number one talking point in the Baltimore sports media coming out of that game last night is just that the pass rush, against the Rams and against the Jaguars has kind of dissipated a bit, which makes sense. I mean, they're relying heavily on vet guys who've been around the league a lot, had a lot of wear and tear on their bodies, and Jadeveon Clowney and Kyle Van Noy. And, Tyus Bowser is supposedly still with the organization. We have no idea.
Confirmed alive.
He is MIA.
Yeah. But we'll see. I mean, Justin Madubuike, it's like every game he gets a sack. So that we at least got that guy locked and loaded if no one else has energy to go. But yeah, I guess shifting sides to look at this, big matchup here, obviously, is going to be Lamar Jackson, the dual threat that he possesses, versus San Francisco's defense, which, for the most part, I mean, has been incredible this year. I mean, we talked a little bit beforehand. Obviously, you guys had that 3-game loss streak going into your bye where the defense showed some holes. And looks like during the bye week, a lot of that got patched up. I mean, you could make the argument that outside of the Eagles, maybe not facing as good of offenses those games. I mean, still, you guys destroyed the Eagles. Like, they never had a chance in that game. Were there any coming out of the bye week, any obvious scheme changes that the 49ers did?
Well, I mean, you mean other than bringing Wilkes down? No, right? Getting out of the booth and onto the field,
right?
Although, no, I mean, I think part of it was kind of gelling. I do think that what you saw was that, and what you see now is through the first chunk of games, and you saw Shanahan criticize Wilkes for some of his play calls during the losing streak. He was a bit more aggressive, was a bit more apt to blitz. They've kind of pulled back a little bit on that. They're blitzing at about 16.3% of snaps, and so that's bottom 2 or 3 in the league. So there's been a conscious effort to go back to what's worked for the 49ers for the last 4 years, which is rush 4, try and get there with your line and make the quarterback beat you, but you have those extra 3 people kind of playing the zone. So I think that's probably a big part of it. I think that the other thing that you saw was that, and I'm worried about it for this game, is that during the 3-game loss streak, there was a spike in the amount of missed tackles that the 49ers had or didn't have, I guess. And they were pretty good, missing 4, 5, 7 tackles maybe a game, and then it was 10, it was 13, during that kind of stretch. And over the last 3 games, they've won the games, but they've missed an average of 14 tackles a game. And so, I think that they got a bit more sound. I think that they kind of got a little bit they reverted to their roots coming out of the bye, and I think that those adjustments were really helpful. But I do think that part of it was a bit of a regression as well, right? Like they had been playing extremely well. They lose the three because they're missing the tackles. They come back out of it. They're kind of starting to play well again, and now they're missing tackles. And so my worry is that I'm going to be facing one of the best running quarterbacks we've ever seen and a fantastic running game, and we're going to end up missing a lot of tackles, and you're going to hit us for a couple 75-yard runs that take the wind out of our sails. But overall, I think that's been the biggest change, is simply that they kind of went back to blitzing at a very, very low rate and kind of holding their identity.
How'd you say the Chase Young trade is working out so far?
So overall, I think that it's working out great. I think that you're not seeing it on the box score, really, but you are seeing that the rest of the line is getting pressures. And he's getting pressures as well. Sacks have gone up. I mean, I think you have the most sacks in the league. I think you're sitting at an even 50. But we're sitting at 43, and a lot of those, we've been able to ramp those up over the last few weeks. There's been multiple sack games by Bosa, who's sitting at 10.5 now after a pretty slow start to the season. You've got Armstead, obviously missed last game, but he's been able to kind of get to the quarterback. And I think just having another bona fide stud athlete on that line that the offensive line has to kind of account for means that it frees up lanes for other people to get to the quarterback. And so that's been really great. The one thing that I will say just in terms of something else that they did that kind of goes against maybe what you would think from them generally, is when they played the Eagles, they didn't rush as aggressively as they did or as they do with non-mobile quarterbacks. And so you saw them try and contain more and basically not let him get to the outside and try and push. So they would almost move the pocket to make him kind of try and have to throw. And it worked really, really well. And I think that, if they want to be successful against the Ravens, they're going to have to try and do something to limit Lamar in that regard as well. And that might be, not selling out to try and get a sack, but trying to create the time to make him have to throw it. And obviously, he's a fantastic passer, but it just eliminates, at the very least, or minimizes one of the best weapons in the league. And I think that might be part of their game plan this week.
Yeah, I mean, it'll certainly be interesting. One thing going into this week, which is going to be huge for the Ravens offense, is going to be the injury to Keaton Mitchell. I think a lot of people have been talking about it, and just that the Ravens are going to suffer a lot from being able to run effectively against light boxes because Keaton was just an absolute threat. To take it to the distance, basically any play with his speed and vision. Without him, Justice Hill, he's got speed. He does not really have the same vision. He doesn't really have the same ability to break tackles as well. It always seems like he kind of gets tripped up pretty easily. So, I mean, there's a lot that could happen there. Todd Monken definitely has to have an answer for that. One thing I was actually looking for, and I know it's early in the week, we're probably not going to have information until later, but I did notice that Armstead and Hargrave were ruled out for the previous game. So those are your two interior guys. Yeah. So I'm wondering, if I'm the Ravens, that maybe that could be, an element to kind of attack on this 49ers defense, to kind of go up the middle, because one, I mean, you have Gus Edwards, who we know is already a really effective weapon inside the tackles. And two, and also, more importantly, I think, is it sort of neutralizes the edge rushers a little bit, because the Ravens right now are kind of struggling at tackle. They're trying some things out to try and rotate with Stanley and Moses with those backups. for a couple series here and there. But even with that, I feel like, I feel like this 49ers defensive line is pretty talented. And so, if I were the Ravens, I'd be looking to try and attack up the gut. Now, obviously, the downside of that is that you have two very good linebackers as well, so who'll be waiting right there. So it's not an easy task for sure, but that's kind of how I might attack it.
Yeah, those linebackers are pretty incredible. I mean, both teams sport, an incredible linebacker corp. Really, one of the things that I've been very pleasantly surprised with this year, we're tops in turnovers. We've created 25 turnovers so far this year, 19 of those being interceptions, and Fred Warner just quietly having 4 interceptions, right?
Yeah.
As a middle linebacker, just kind of hanging out in the center, calling plays, and then dropping into coverage and making quarterbacks pay that when they have to abandon the run. So if the line is doing its job and you're forced to pass, he's kind of somebody that can stop that pretty easily. Obviously our secondary has been all right as well, but that center of the defense is definitely a strength for the 49ers. Now, I think the last report that I heard was that they're hopeful, at least for Armstead. I don't know about Hargrave. I haven't read anything, but certainly it's a big boost. Um, if it takes an extra week for them to come back, I'd rather that, even though I want them there for the game and I want the best chance of winning. But and Ravens fans know this as well as almost anybody, that it's a long season and injuries can kind of kick your butt pretty hard. And so I'd much rather them just do that. And I'll just hope that Gus Edwards can't rip off 5.5 yards per carry all day long. But
Yeah, I have my concerns about the run game now that Keen's out, so this will be a big test for the Ravens. Also seeing that you guys have D. Winters. I forgot about that guy until just now, one of the guys we like coming in out of the draft. So see, he's doing just a little bit of contributions for you guys. Nothing too crazy. But yeah, man, like you were saying, that's impressive that you get so many interceptions. Do you guys run a lot of nickel or dime, or like what kind of like alignments do you guys normally do?
So, I mean, most of it, we're running out of base alignments, right?
Mm.
Like we've got occasionally nickel. We're not running out a lot of dime. I mean, I don't think that we have the DB corps to do it. To be really honest with you, especially when Hawafanga went down. Although we've had some young folks step up as well. So yeah, I mean, oftentimes we're just running a simple 4-3. But if we do anything else, it is definitely in nickel, and I think that you see that more. I think you see that more often with a lot of teams this year, or sorry, not this year, just in general. I guess I should say the Wilkes runs a lot of cover 3, at least historically, and he has this year as well. So he'll have folks drop, but at least as far as I understand and as far as I know, I think that the primary alignment we're still running out of is a 4-3 alignment.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, you have two good linebackers, so going into dime is maybe not what you're trying to be built to do. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess just to, go off your secondary, I mean, obviously, when you look at this Ravens offense, it's hard to know who's going to be the guy that's going to pop. I mean, even going into the game, I mean, last night, who would have thought that Zay Flowers would exit the game with just one catch, and that Isaiah Likely would be the guy who, relatively speaking, would have the big receiving game. Every week it had been a different guy rushing the ball, but when you look at that secondary, I mean, I know Alex just mentioned Winters, and I know that guys like Travarius Ward has been having a big year. What are the type of players that this secondary has struggled a little more against? Are they more susceptible to guys who are more physical, like at the tight end position, or speedsters like Zay. Where is there the mismatch for the Ravens skill positions going against the secondary?
I think that it's the smaller, faster players. I mean, if you've watched Ward play, against kind of those large alpha number ones, he's been pretty effective
locked up
at shutting them down. Exactly right. I mean, that's the one that we see. I mean, he's been very successful against Metcalf in a number of games. But so it is often those kind of smaller, faster receivers, kind of underneath, that you don't generally see them get burned for massive plays over the top. It's players that can kind of create after the catch. In some ways similar to what they do, right? Which is, I mean, maybe just ironic, or maybe it's by design. But so a team or a player like Zay Flowers, I think, is the type of player that I would be more concerned of if I'm a 49ers fan. I think that I'm not too concerned with the tight end position, because I think that our linebackers match up pretty well against somebody like Likely. I think that somebody, I'm not worried about somebody like Aguilar, but maybe somebody like OBJ can break one or two off. But for me, it's really the kind of short pass, 5 to 7 yards down the field that goes to something more. And the only way that I think that really changes is if the running game gets going and we start biting, right? If you're able to get that running game going and we bring the safeties down, somebody like Zay has enough speed to burn us, but it's not going to be strong at the catch point down the sidelines, kind of typical X receiver that I'm worried about.
It's really good to know too, because we have like OBJ and Bateman, who are more of those kind of guys. So it could be a tricky, kind of tricky day for the Ravens offense. If the only guy that we're hoping is going to be able to make a difference there is Zay.
I haven't. So I mean, not to go off, but like I haven't watched enough Ravens games over the course of the year. I've watched some of them, but it seems to me that OBJ has been very much as advertised in the last 3, 4, 5 games, and that he might be able to provide a bit of a spark. And historically, I mean, he's been able to line up all over the field. So what has his usage been like then?
A lot of slants.
What has his usage been like?
I think at this point,
earlier in the season, lots of slants for sure. I mean, against the Rams, double moves was basically his bread and butter that game. I mean, he was getting way open on a lot of double moves, corner routes, things like that. But yeah, I mean, he's still got good footwork. That game against the Rams, we talked about it last week. That was his best game by far this season. So his health is finally getting under him.
Yeah, the big thing we've seen with OBJ this year is, if he has to be physical with a corner, he's going to fight hard, but he's going to really struggle to have to win those balls. But if the defense is allowing him to run clean routes and giving him a cushion, then he's going to be able to catch it and do some things after catch with it. So, I mean, it really just depends on, how physical the 49ers want to be with him, I think, is going to depend on what type of game he has. Well, moving on, I guess this is the part of the show, unless anyone has any go-backs, that we're going to go into our score predictions and bold predictions. Aaron, I don't know if you remember this segment from the last time you were on. All right, so as the guest, you have the option to go first or defer.
I'm going to defer.
Okay. Alex, since you had to record yours last week and have it spliced in, do you want to go first?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Actually, I changed my mind. You're going last, and there's a reason you're going last.
Okay.
Chris and I are going to go first. Okay. Chris, do you want to go, or should I jump on?
Sure. Yeah. Now that you've deferred it to everybody else, it's all good. No, it's all good. Yeah, I mean, shoot, man. I mean, this is a really, really tough game. Yeah, man. I could definitely. I mean, I could see this going either way. I feel like I feel like right now the Ravens are in a good mentality. They're just they keep focusing on the next game. They've won quite a few already. I think they really want to get that seed. They want to get the extra bye to get healthy, and keep it rolling. Try to make it like 2019 again, but just this time don't come out flat. But yeah, the Niners, they're gonna be their biggest test yet. Man, this is really tough. I'm going to give it to the Ravens, and only because of this. I think the key difference for me this year is honestly Lamar. And I don't mean that in terms of like statistical, but just in terms of mindset. I feel like he's had another level of focus this year. And yeah, he does make, occasional, mistakes. That interception against the Jags, like that was one of them. I was like, why'd you throw that ball? He has a couple of those from time to time, but I think he bounces back really, really well. And I think the number one difference from this year, Monken's offense, is just he, knowing to, he doesn't have to make the big play every time. He can rely on other people. And I really do think that maturity, I think, is going to serve him well, particularly in games like this. And, I think that, he might be the difference to make this game go in the Ravens' favor. So I'm going to say they win it. Like I said, I can go either way. I'm going to say this one's really close. I've said that we've had blowouts in the past and stuff before, so I don't want to take that lightly. But I'll say the Ravens win. Gosh, like 30-29. And my bold prediction. Hamilton pick 6. We don't have too many interceptions anymore, but Hamilton's been on a roll, man. I really want him to get a big play.
Interceptions, yeah. We had one against the Rams, didn't we? I'm pretty sure we did. I don't think we had any against.
No interceptions. It was a fumble.
It was a fumble.
Against the Rams, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. No, it's been a couple games.
Yeah,
Stone's been a little quiet.
Yeah. I mean, that's really going to be the deciding factor in this game, right? I think that for the Ravens to win this game, they're going to need to win the turnover battle, and they're going to need to apply pressure. And like you said, the past couple weeks, that hasn't been there as it's been the past few, prior to the bye week. The offense, I think, has, flipped a switch and has shown up better since the bye week. But the defense, from a turnover and, pressure standpoint, not as much. I think that this team can certainly beat San Francisco. I think San Francisco can beat Baltimore. I think everyone in this chat, believes that these are two very evenly matched teams, which is why I, unfortunately, and why I didn't want to go last, have to pick the home team here to win a tight one, 24-21. I certainly hope that's not the case, obviously, but with them that close, if this game was in Baltimore, I'd pick the Ravens by field goal since it's in south of San Fran, but that's region. Got to go with the Niners. For the bold prediction, I agree with what we're all saying with Justice Hill. He doesn't have the best vision, but I've really liked what I've seen from him in stepping up with his, role getting kind of downgraded after the ascendance of Keaton Mitchell. I think he's going to step in. I think he's going to have a big game. My bold prediction will be 80 total scrimmage yards for him, which would be a career high for him. So I feel like that's bold. I think he'll step in and he's going to be ready to take on those extra carries. So, Alec, I already know you're going to pick the Ravens to win because you always do. So let's hear it. Let's hear it before you hand it off to Aaron.
The Ravens are going to lose 27-17.
All right. Well, at least
actually what I was thinking.
At least Chris picked them.
Really? Yeah. So
Is the Ravens one winning pod first?
No, I definitely picked against them. I have.
You have?
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Go look at the sheet. Yeah, it's not often. I only do it when I really mean it. So I think the reason I'm saying this is actually because of Keem Mitchell injury. I think the offense is going to really struggle in this game because they don't have the spark of Keem Mitchell runs. I'm not convinced. Like I agree with you that Justice Hill has shown flashes. I'm very concerned about the. I've already seen this the last couple of weeks of just like we're not consistent on drives. And we'll just like falter somewhere. And I think without like a key and spark, I think, Mark Andrews obviously being out, I have concerns there. I also have concerns about the defense. If Marcus Williams isn't available, I'm also just concerned in general because I adore McDonald, but is he going to be outsmarted by Shanahan? I could see it. And if you're trying to get the, optimistic Alec Ravens view is like, this is fine. You lose this game to be able to beat him in the Super Bowl because, I think I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be a really tough test. And I'm not sure if we have all the answers. I would love to be wrong, obviously, but yeah, I'm saying 27-17. The over under is 46 points and the spread is 5.5 in favor of the 49ers for what it's worth. So, yeah, I don't love it. Like I said, I don't do this often, but here we are. And then for my bold prediction, though, I do think Lamar will have a quite a productive game. I think he will end up throwing for probably 225 and running for 80. So, he'll have a pretty big game himself, but it'll be because of desperation, and like I said, the barbell plays will be not in our favor. So, hope I'm wrong.
Man, well, this is not good news, Ravens flock, because dating back to 2020, the Ravens are 0-3 when Alec picks against them. So he's only picked the Ravens to lose 3 times since the kickoff of the 2020 season. All 3 of those games were losses, and literally just one pick a year.
Hate that for me.
Yeah, but you got to go the other way around. When does he call for the Ravens to win and they have lost? I mean, come on.
I'm just saying the 3 times he's picked them to lose. Only 3 times. It was to the
really
Packers. Packers in 21, Titans in 20, and last year was Week 18 to the Bengals when we were starting. Anthony Brown. I don't even want to count that one. Technically, I want to say this was 0-2, but.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess I've been thinking about this a bunch, and I saw that too. I mean, I saw 45.5, but same thing, right? Like, and a 5.5 point spread. That seems too big to me. I know that they're at home. I know that you get the 2.5 to 3 from the books just for being at home. But I'm worried that the 49ers are not going to come out of this game victorious. I'm worried that even without Keaton Mitchell, that run game is going to stymie the 49ers. They've been run on decently well over the season. I think Lamar is a singular threat. And so I'm going to go the other way because
bounce it out.
That way I get to be happy no matter what happens. But I'm going to say that the Ravens win this 29-27. I think that they're going to blow out the over/under. But I think that the Ravens win, and my bold prediction is that Christian McCaffrey runs for, receives, and passes for a touchdown.
Triple hat.
Oh man, that would really throw a wrench in the MVP race.
Absolutely.
He's a quarterback now. He's in consideration. Yeah, for a touchdown.
Yeah, he's already got one passing touchdown this year, right? So
there you go.
Yeah. The Ravens win, but McCaffrey gets a triple, the triple crown, I guess. Yeah, that's wow.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Aaron, I definitely appreciate you coming on the show. It's been a long while. I guess back then we were just commissioning those LTS leagues, and now we're in this ridiculous amount of dynasty leagues together, and we're all fully helping pay for your kids' college tuitions in the future because of all these wins you're racking up against us.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I wish that were the case. But last year was good, but this year, not so much.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pretty
man.
sure I'm seventh place in both leagues. So yeah, still up and coming.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate you folks having me on. Next time they're playing each other, maybe we can go to the game all together in one city.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Christmas Day is a little bit tough, but you all live in Baltimore. I just need to, or at least near, so I just need to be on my way there the next time they play each other, and we'll all go to a game.
We'll see you in 4 years, man. Maybe sooner
Absolutely.
with the new scheduling.
Wow.
But yeah, that would be be a
is true,
great
yeah.
treat, and we will definitely figure it out for sure. That would be awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, you can find us on Twitter at OneWinningPod. Email us onewinningpod@gmail.com, and of course, you can leave a comment or watch the show on YouTube, where we have our channel there. Always appreciate your interactions, and we'll see you later in the week. Have a great holiday, and go Ravens.